What's up guys, welcome back to Sliced. Today we're continuing the Origin of Food series with Maqlouba. This dish is central to Palestinian cuisine, but it's also found across different Middle Eastern cultures too. It's a very peculiar looking dish because it's sort of layered. You've got the layers of veg and meat and rice, and it's all perfectly formed in the cylinder of the sort of shape of the pot that it came from. And a really popular story about the way it was formed was that when Salah ad-Din conquered Jerusalem, the people of the city served that dish to him and he loved the way it was inverted, and so he asked about it, and when he found out that it was flipped over once it was cooked, he named it Maqlouba, which means inverted or upside down. Some people find it a bit difficult to cook. It's very hard to flip it and sort of get that shape to hold, so I've done a lot of research and I've tested it out a few times and I think I've got it. So you have two main types of Maqlouba. Traditionally, if you were having it with lamb or red meat, you would have it with aubergine and tomato. And if you were to have it with chicken, you'd have it with cauliflower, potato and carrot. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. You've got the strength of the lamb, which is matched by the strength of the tomato and aubergine, and then you've got that milder flavor of chicken, which is matched by those sweeter, sort of milder flavors from the potato, cauliflower and carrot. But to be honest, I mean, people mix and match these things all the time. This is just traditionally what I've been told is how it's served. Anyway, let's jump right into this. So I'm making it with chicken, and so I've got some chicken thighs that I've cut in half. I've kept them attached to the bone and I've kept the skin on because I want to get that maximum flavor. And you can do that by having the bone attached to the meat. It just gives a lot more flavor. Spice wise, I've got a mixture of salt, black pepper, cumin powder, cardamom powder, pimento powder, cinnamon powder and coriander powder. So it's got quite a wide variety of spices, but to be honest, you can actually buy Maqlouba spices pre-made. It also has a lot of crossover with other spices such as like shawarma spice. Our point is, don't be overwhelmed by, oh my god, there's so many different spices, I can't make this. You can make it. Even if you use a packet mix, even if you use something that's not typically used in Maqlouba, something that you prefer for your taste, just go ahead and try it. The main thing about Maqlouba is the principle. Once you've got the principle, you can do anything. But these are spices that I'm using which are more traditionally associated with the flavor of Maqlouba. We also have our veg, of course. I've got a whole head of cauliflower, along with 500 grams of baby potatoes. You can use larger potatoes, whatever you want. And I've got 3 sort of medium-sized carrots. Finally, of course, we need our rice. I've gone with about 2 cups of rice. You can use however much depending on how many people you're trying to feed. Okay, so before we actually go into the recipe, we need to talk about the actual science behind it, if you will. A lot of people will try and make this dish, including myself the first time I made it, and you'll flip it over and you'll lift it, expecting something great, and it will all just fall apart. And there's a few reasons behind this that we need to look at. The key to this is really in the rice. You really need to ensure that you've got enough starch to sort of mix everything together. So normally with rice, you sort of wash away all that starch, you're trying to sort of get it as clear as possible, and then you cook it. What we're gonna do here is we're going to soak the rice, leaving that starch intact, and we're going to boil it in the chicken stock until it's like almost like sort of 75% cooked, similar to a biryani. And that chicken stock is also going to add gelatin to the mix as well, which is going to help give it more strength. And we're going to sprinkle that over the top of our finished product, and once we finish cooking it, this will really help to sort of stick everything together, if that makes sense. Whereas if you were to just cook the rice normally and wash away all that starch, it would have individual grains and they wouldn't sort of like stick together as one big solid piece, and that's what you want. And the second most important thing in keeping that shape from the Maqlouba is the pan that you use. The first time I made it, I used a tall sort of stock pot. That's not going to work out because you've got too much gap. It's just, everything needs to be really sort of tight together. You really want to achieve really tight layers to each other, to the point where once you've finished, the rice is pretty much touching the top of the pan. So whatever pan you use, try and get a wider pan. It will just be a lot better, but also make sure you're packing it right to the top. You don't want any gaps. And once you have everything really sort of squashed together, the weight of it will keep it compressed, and it's just going to be a lot better. So 2 things. 1, your rice, don't wash off all the starch. And 2, your pan, make sure your pan is the sort of correct size. To be honest, it's all about trial and error. Try one pan, if it doesn't work, try another one. Just try it and see how it goes, and I'm sure it will be perfect. So I feel like we've waffled on long enough, so let's get right into this. Normally we'd start with prepping our veg, but I'm just going to jump straight into the meat because we need to start boiling it actually. So what I'm going to do is take all my spices and just season the thigh, rubbing it all nicely. I'm going to take a large pot, put a little bit of oil in it, not too much, we don't want it to be too greasy, and I'm just going to fry the skin until it's crispy and some of the fat has rendered out. And then what I'm going to do is cover it nicely with some water, bring it to a boil and let it simmer for about 25 minutes so that the chicken is completely cooked. We want this chicken to be cooked. Once that's out of the way, we can clean down our surface, making sure that there's no cross-contamination going on, and we can go ahead and prep our veg. So with the cauliflower, I'm just going to remove the outer leaves and then sort of chop it down into really sort of not too small, not too big. We want them to be relatively small so that they can cook, but not so big that they're crunchy by the time you've eaten it. So we're gonna put that to one side and take our potatoes, making sure they've washed. I'm just gonna quarter them. You can take large potatoes and peel them. I only had baby potatoes, absolutely fine. You can use whatever you've got around you. And finally, we've got the carrots. I'm just gonna peel them and slice them into like 1/2 centimeter rings. What we're going to do while this is happening is soak our rice in cold water. It will be about 20 minutes. By the time you finish prepping your veg and the meat's cooked, it will be ready. What we're gonna do then is take a frying pan or wok, wherever you want, and just put a little bit of oil in it. At a time, we're just gonna fry off our cauliflower, our potato, our carrot, until they're nice and golden, and we're going to remove them and put them onto a piece of paper so that the excess oil can dry off. Take out a piece of your chicken, and once your chicken is nicely cooked and you've got that lovely stock at the end, you're just going to remove your pieces of chicken, leave them on like a plate or something like that, and then you're going to rinse off your excess water from the rice, dump all your rice into the pot and let it cook. And this is why it's great, because you don't really need to add so much seasoning. All the seasoning is in that water. It's going to get reabsorbed by the rice, all that chicken flavor is going into the rice. This is really a dish that hasn't got huge crazy amounts of seasoning, but it really will fill you up, and it just has such a hearty, nice, warming kind of flavor to it. You're going to keep cooking your rice until it's 75% cooked. You'll be able to tell this because you'll be able to squeeze it in your hand. It won't smush completely because that will mean the rice is completely cooked, but it will crack in a few places, like 3 places it will sort of break apart. And that's what you want. If the rice is so raw that you're squeezing it and nothing's happening, then obviously you need to cook it longer. And if it smushes, then it's overcooked. So use that as a measure and try and get for the sort of 75% mark where it's almost entirely cooked. What we're going to do then is we're going to drain off the excess liquid, but don't get rid of it. Leave it on the side for now. I'll show you why later. Now the final part where it comes to actually layering this dish. So what we're going to do is take our pot and start by layering the veg first. That's right, you want the veg to be seen on top. So we're going to layer our cauliflower, followed by our potatoes, and then filling in the last layer with our carrots. But to be honest, you can do it however you want, up to you. I'm just doing it this way, which I'm then going to follow on with our chicken. So I'm going to layer on the cooked chicken just after that. We're then going to sprinkle the rice on top. You don't want to sort of heavily pack it down, just sprinkle it, making sure it's a really nice even layer. You can even pat it down with your hand if you want. And what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to add maybe 1/2 glass, even less than that, of chicken stock back into the pan. This is only because I don't want anything to stick. You want a little bit of steam just to sort of get things going. This is kind of similar to how you do a biryani. And finally, we're going to cover it with a lid and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. You really want it to cook nicely so that everything's totally cooked. This next part is also really important. You don't want to flip it straight away. Let it sit on the side off the heat for about 10-15 minutes just to sort of hold that shape. It will release itself naturally from the sides and it will start to stick together. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for, this is perfect to do at the dinner table. You're gonna put a sort of tray or plate on top, and you're just gonna flip it nice and confidently, tap the top, tap the sides, and you're just gonna slowly lift that up, and hopefully you've got that perfect shape. To be honest, if it doesn't hold its shape, absolutely fine. It's still gonna taste great. Don't feel dismayed, but just try it out, and hopefully if you follow this recipe, it should work out. It's weirdly funny, you know, the other day Palestine was trending on Twitter, everyone was going like, oh my gosh, it's off the maps, it's off the maps. And I can just imagine this one person just typing in on Google Maps, Palestine, and then being like, oh my god, it's not on the map? And then acting like as if it's some newfound revelation or something like that. Guys, come on, it's been off the map for decades. It really is something that we should make ourselves more aware of and keep connecting to ourselves to this issue that's been going on for decades. The main thing is though, they may wipe it off the map in writing, but they'll never be able to wipe it away from our memories if we keep that culture alive. And this comes with food along with all other kind of things. So even though you have a dish as simple as maqlouba, by just remembering that these foods are specific to that part of the world, to that country, that's what it is, we can help to keep its name alive even though they've removed the letters from a map. It's really important that we support ongoing projects. One project that I really love is the Holy Land Dates Project. They're an amazing organization that sell dates and olive oil, etc. And they sort of support Palestinian farmers as well as supporting other causes. And so another way that we can really support them is by boosting their economy. So please support that. I'll leave a link to them in the description below. And of course, just keep going on with these sort of petitions and the pressure on local governments to sort of support the cause and to restrict funding towards oppressive regimes towards it. That's the main thing. But anyway, look, I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Please let me know how it goes at sliced_YT on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, everything. I'll see you next time. Bye.